So, what is a coral reef? It is an offshore ridge mainly composed of calcium carbonate, and that forms when you have secretion of small marine animals. And secretions could be from feces all the way to anything that an organism, a marine organism, can let go. So if you see a coral and it looks all pretty and colorful, then you really don't know what it's made out of. All right, so it's made out of calcium carbonate, and that comes from secretion that marine animals, fishes, octopuses, sardines, whatever marine animal you have living in that area, secretion that is released from that animal it just piles up, like when you're forming a sedimentary rock, piles up and it creates these corals and these ridges. So reefs are formed by coral pulps and other living creatures. So when we talk about a coral reef, and it might look dead to you and it's just a coral and it's there, it doesn't move, it looks like a rock, but actually everything in a coral reef is a living thing. So if you go into and you go scuba diving and you've been scuba diving and you want to pick up a coral, it is made out of living things. It's not dead, it's not a rock. Not because it's just there and it doesn't move means that it has no life. Alright? So coral pulps are small, soft-bodied creatures that use the calcium carbonate dissolved in seawater. So when the fishes secrete all of these things that contain this calcium carbonate, it is dissolved in the seawater, and that builds up a hard casing of limestone to protect themselves. Coral reefs. All of these coral, if you guys have been scuba diving, if you have seen a video of the coral reef of Belize or coral reefs anywhere in the world, and you've seen these movies that have marines and they swim to the bottom of the ocean and bottom of the sea, they have things that look like this. And as I mentioned before, it doesn't really move, it just stays there. It has vibrant colors and different designs, but it's made out of these tiny little organisms that we call pulps. And these pulps form all of these bigger corals. So when you look at something like this is made out of tiny little organisms that are just stick together. Alright, and I'm gonna show you guys a video that shows you guys in detail how that looks like. But before I go ahead and do that, I have this link, and it's gonna take you guys to it looks like a scenery of the underwater, and I want you guys to click on the play button, and it will open the activity for you. And in that activity, you are to choose 4 things that you see there. So it could be an animal, it could be an underwater plant or whatever marine organism that you think is a great animal. Alright? And it will tell you if you are correct or if you are incorrect. So I am going to put this link in the chat. You guys can go ahead and click on that link, and it will take you to this page. It says Great Minds Wanted. Spot what's great and not great on the Great Barrier Reef. There are 4 items to find. Alright, so it should take you to a page like that. You click on the start button and then it will take you to the scenery. So the scenery is loading in the background, and you are to choose 4 things that you think are great. The great animals of the barrier reef. Think a fish is one of the great animals, the turtle is one of the great animals. You choose it and it will let you know if you are right or if you are wrong. Alright? So it's a very simple activity. I'll give you guys maybe 2 minutes to do that. So you can move your cursor around, or if you are using a tablet or a phone, then you can just click on one of the fishes, um, the sea turtle, the corals, the jellyfish, anything that you think is a great animal. Did everybody manage to get into the link? Okay guys, I'm sorry, but I think my internet here is not working because it says that I lost connection with you guys, and now I'm back in the meeting. So if that happens, let's cope with the technological difficulties that we're having. So you guys managed to get in, miss, after you found all of them? Okay, so let's see. I did not try this, so I'm just gonna click on one. So once you click on one, you're supposed to choose if it's a great or not a great animal, right? So your progress is supposed to be recorded at the right upper corner. It says progress. I have 1/4. Once you have chosen all 4 of them, then you just can exit the game and then we can continue with the class. Right? And then if you didn't get a chance to manage to get into it right now, the link is in the PowerPoint. You guys can go ahead and try it afterwards. Right? So that was just a small activity for us to try and see what are the things that live in the barrier reef. So now my question to you guys, and then we're gonna answer this in the chat. Which one is more diverse? Miss, my one does not work. If you would like to try it later on, Angel, then the link is available for you in the chat, and then you can try it later on to see if it works. So my question is, which one is more diverse in species? Is it a reef or is it a rainforest? So think about the question. And by species, I mean plant life, fauna, and animal life, which is, no, plant is flora and animal is fauna. So flora and fauna. Which one has more species found in it? Is it a reef or is it a rainforest? Think about it. I want you guys to type it in the chat to hold the answer. When I say send your answers, everybody is going to send their answers at the same time, and then we're going to move on. All right? So think about it. Which one do you think has more species? Which one is more diverse in the amount of species that live or inhabit in it? Is it a reef and marine ecosystem, or is it a rainforest, a terrestrial ecosystem? Which one do you think has more species, more diverse in species? Ooh, you're not following instructions. Type your answer, hold your answer. When I say send your answers, then you're gonna send your answers. Okay. So at the count of 3, everybody's gonna send it at the same time, right? And I'm supposed to see popping, 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 all of the answers popping at the same time. So 1, 2, 3. Send your answers. I see almost everybody said reef. Why did you say a reef? Is it because we're talking about reefs today? What if it's a rainforest and it was a trick question? The correct answer is reefs, though. So you guys are right. Reefs are way more diverse in the amount of species and how diverse the species that they have inhabit in that specific ecosystem. Rainforests, yes, are diverse. You have more, well, you have a large variety, but a coral reef has way more diverse species than a terrestrial ecosystem. So right now I'm gonna show you guys a video. Let me know if you guys cannot hear the audio, then I will just restart it again. Alright?
Coral reefs. Their bright vivid colors can be seen in tropical ocean waters around the globe. Beyond their brilliant appearance lie animals. For their beautiful legs, coral are in fact made up of animals called polyps. These invertebrates can range from the size of a pin to a bit larger than a plastic ball. Each polyp consists of a soft, sac-like body topped by a mouth where it can stay uterus. To protect themselves from body as born, the polyps secrete limestone skeletons or telomeres. Corals are megamilkers. Coral cavities connect to one another, creating colonies that last as a single organism. As colonies grow over hundreds and thousands of years, they start with little colonies and become reefs that can grow to hundreds of miles long. The largest coral is Australia's Great Barrier Reef, dating from about 50,000 years ago. Coral reefs are some of the most diverse ecosystems on Earth. But they cover less than 1% of the ocean floor. Coral reefs are home to 25% of all marine species. It's been estimated that up to 2 million species inhabit coral reefs, rivaling the biodiversity of the rainforest. The reefs provide rich habitat for millions of young fish as they grow. Coral are translucent. Coral reefs get their rainbow colors from algae or a subtle family found in their tissues. The corals use their tentacles to capture specific those living in the algae mass. When a coral becomes stressed by pollution or other factors, they can hit the algae. Coral bleaching results revealing corals' white skeletons. Coral provide a window into the past. As coral grow, their limestone skeletons form layers similar to tree roots that vary in composition and thickness based on ocean conditions at the time. With some coral reefs growing for thousands of millions of years, scientists construct these layers using coral parts that many will not pay attention to past. Unfortunately, climate change is putting corals' future in danger, along with the millions of species that inhabit those in the habitat that rely on these fish for food. Warming waters result in prolonged coral bleaching that kill coral reefs or leave them vulnerable to other threats. Without significant action on climate change, our oceans could lose many of their colorful reefs by the end of the century. Coral reefs.
Okay. So that short video talked about coral reefs in general, characteristics of coral reefs. But what we want to do is that we want to go even a little bit more in depth. Apart from just knowing what a coral reef is, what it's made out of. Oh, my mic. Sorry about that. So that video talked about what a coral reef is, characteristics of a coral reef, what inhabit coral reefs. But we want to go a little bit more in depth, and we want to talk about what are the types of coral reef. And once we know the types of coral reefs, we're going to go in depth in just one of them. All right, so what I have here is another video that quickly talks about the different types of coral reefs, and we have a variety of coral reefs and each one has different characteristics. All right, so I'm going to be playing this video for you guys.
Coral reefs vary in shape, size, and color. Let's take a look at a few different types of reefs. Fringing reefs are the most common type of reef. They grow close to the shorelines of continents and islands. Fringing reefs can be attached to the shore or be separated from it by a narrow strip of water called a lagoon. The Ningaloo Reef is the biggest fringing reef in the world. It is located on the coast of Australia and is over 160 miles long. Barrier reefs are farther offshore and can be several miles from the shorelines of continents and islands. Unlike fringing reefs, barrier reefs have some deeper portions. The largest reef in the world is the Great Barrier Reef found in Australia. It is more than 1,600 miles long. That's 10 times the length of a Ningaloo Reef. The Great Barrier Reef is so large, it can be seen from space. Atolls are rings of coral that encircle a body of water called a lagoon. They are found in the tropics and subtropics, which are warmer areas near the equator. Atolls usually begin as a fringing surrounding a volcanic island. As the coral expands and grows, the island sinks into the ocean, leaving the ring of coral. Some atolls, like the Marshall Islands, are so big people live on them. Other types of coral reefs include inlet reefs. These reefs look like a fringing reef but are more sloped. Patch reefs are circular reefs that grow in between the fringe reef and the barrier reef. These reefs grow in water that is only about 10 to 20 feet deep. Ribbon reefs are long, narrow, winding reefs. Some ribbon reefs form the outer edges of the Great Barrier Reef.
Okay, so they mentioned quite a few different types of coral reefs. The one that we are going to be focusing on is on the barrier reef, specifically the barrier reef of Belize. Here in Belize, though, we do have fringing reefs. If you guys go down to Placencia, those are where we find fringing reef, which are reefs that are more close, coral that is more close to the shoreline. We do have atolls in the small keys that we have, Ambergris Key, San Pedro. They have coral around them, and those are what we call atolls. The big blue hole is an example of an atoll reef where you have it around an area and in between, then whatever was there, it sank. So we do have quite a few of these here in Belize because we are found in the tropics and because we are close to the subtropics, then we have those characteristics here in Belize. So now the Belize's barrier reef is a coral reef and it is the second in size after the Great Barrier Reef of Australia. So in the entire world, Belize has the second largest barrier reef. It is the largest of its kind in the northern and western hemispheres. So if we are talking about which country has the largest barrier reef in the world, it is Australia. If we are talking about which country has the largest barrier reef in the northern hemisphere or in the western hemisphere of the world, then it would be Belize. The barrier reef in Belize extends for more than 180 miles, and that is 290 kilometers, and along the Caribbean coast of Belize. So now the Belize barrier reef, we have this specific barrier reef and the climate, and these are some of the facts that are asked of you in the assignment that I have assigned to you guys. if you have taken a look at the Google slide that I have uploaded as a second learning activity for this week, some of these things are asked for you guys to fill out as one of the graphic organizers, and this is one of them. The tropical climate of the reef and the average temperature measures from about 61 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter, and our winter is basically December, January, February. And those are the coldest months, so then that is when the temperature drops. And then when we are in the summertime, so that will be June, July, August, then the temperature rises to about 88 degrees Fahrenheit. So when you are inserting your information in the graphic organizer, your answer should be between 61 to 88 degrees Fahrenheit, or between 16 to 31 degrees Celsius. All right, you want to make sure that if you're talking about Celsius, both of them are Celsius, and both of them are Fahrenheit, right? So now these are other, what's the correct word? I lost the correct word. Places that are like reserves for the barrier reef. We have a list of them. Bacalar Chico is one of, is a Spanish reserve that does assist our marine reserve here in Belize. They have a partnership that allows for the protection of our barrier reef, and they create and assist in creating the different laws, the different monitorations, the different shifts, everything that takes place for the protection and the conservation of the barrier reef to occur. And from there, you have a lot of them. You have the Blue Hole Natural Monument, the Half Moon Key Natural Monument, the Glover's Reef Marine Reserve, Southwater Key Marine Reserve, and all of these reserves and parks do have a connection with the barrier reef and do assist in the monitoration and the protection of the barrier reef. So this is also asked in your assignment. For the second graphic organizer, what does our government, or what are the strategies that we have implemented for the protection of our barrier reef? And you could go ahead and choose one of these and you could insert it there. I do not want the whole list being inserted here. Just choose one and that would be fine. All right. So this is what the barrier reef of Belize looks like. Now, it is quite a distance away from land, so you can't stand on the coast of Belize City, for example, and then expect to look down and see the barrier reef. You have to go on a boat, travel a little distance, then you will be able to see the barrier reef. For example, you have quite an amount of boats there. It's a little far away for you to be able to see the barrier reef. So now, we're talking about the barrier reef, coral reefs, and we want to talk about what inhabits and what affects the barrier reef. In the beginning of the week and last week as well, I had mentioned the CFRR, our creation and our fall, which is shown here on this slide. Our creation, God created all things, and our fall, creation was affected by sin. But even though things and everything in this world was tainted by sin, there are quite a large vast of things that are still beautiful. And the assignment of the waterfall, I did relate the assignment to this, asking you guys to explain or describe how you think a waterfall would have looked like if sin had not affected it, if sin had not went into the world. So now, looking at what lives in the barrier reef, everything that I am going to show right now lives in the barrier reef, but is also affected by sin. All right? So, who can tell me what that is? Manatee. Very good. It's a manatee. A manatee is one of our marine animals here in Belize that we are prestige and we like to boast that we have, and we have sightings of manatees in Belize because not all countries are as fortunate as us having these animals living where we are. All right, so manatee, even though it looks as cute as it looks and it's something that Belize is proud of. We remember that it was God's creation, but it was tainted by sin because sin came into the world. Next picture, what is that?
Starfish.
Very good, a starfish. Next picture.
Crocodile.
Sure, it's a crocodile, it's not an alligator.
Alligator.
You sure? Which one does Belize have? Or do we have both?
Crocodile. Crocodile is please don't have alligator.
You sure we're gonna debate about this? Alligator or crocodile? I have one person saying it's a crocodile and one person saying it's an alligator. What is it?
It's an alligator.
Very good, it's an alligator. What about that?
Which shark?
It's a shark. I'm not gonna ask you for what kind of shark because we're gonna debate about what kind of shark it is. What is that?
Lionfish.
Sure, it's a lionfish. It's not a tigerfish. It's not a catfish. Very good, guys. Very good. What about that?
Stingray.
A stingray? Okay. And that?
Sea turtle.
It's a sea turtle? You sure it's not an ocean turtle? It's a sea turtle, right? And what about that one?
Eel.
Sure, it's an eel. It's not something I took out of a sci-fi movie and just put it there. It's an eel. It's an eel, right? And in Belize, we do have these kinds of eels. So, if you guys go scuba diving, and I would encourage you guys, you have the opportunity to go scuba diving, go scuba diving because it's a wonderful experience. When I was in third form, I went scuba diving as a part of a school trip, and it was an amazing experience. You see things and you learn things that in the classroom, in virtual classes, you cannot learn. All right? So, we have seen the different animals that live in a coral reef. And as I mentioned at the beginning, all of these were creation by God and all of these were affected by sin. Now, my question to you guys is, what is the biggest, and I have capitalized the biggest, so I know that there's a lot of issues, but what is the biggest issue that is affecting underwater ecosystems? Who can tell me what that is?
Pollution.
Very good, Darnell. Pollution. And we have other issues, like for example, people are an issue because when we go scuba diving or we go on a boat, we just break off a coral and I'm gonna take it home because I want that on my shelf. Or we go fishing and then it's not lobster season and then we go and fish all of the lobster that are not ready to be fished and we want to sell that because we want to make money. We go on these speed boats and boat trips and boom, we go over the coral reef and we break the coral reef or we crush a manatee or a sea animal and we don't do anything and we just go like, okay, I didn't see anything and it just dies there. So people cause a lot of issues, and all of the issues, even we do pollution, who are the ones that pollute? It's not the marine animals, they're not going to pollute where they live, it's us. People are creating big problems, and the biggest problem that we are creating is pollution. So now I have another little activity for us to do, and this one is a little bit more, might take you guys more of your vision. If you need glasses, you have to put your glasses. This activity, you are going to click on the play button as well, and it's going to show a line of images that are going to be crossing over the coral reef. Your job is to click on the ones that I think are not jellyfishes. So it's gonna have garbage and it's gonna have jellyfishes that are gonna be floating together, and your job is to identify the difference. Repeat again.
What? Oh.
Let me project it. Project it now. Let me share my screen so you guys can see the activity. Um, and then I'm gonna put it in the chat as well, so you guys can go ahead and open it. And that loads. Meanwhile, my one loads here. And I am going to share the screen so that you guys can see what it is that you're gonna do. Plastic campaign. Okay, so here it is. Can you tell the difference between a jellyfish and a plastic bag? Alright, tap to clean up as many plastic bags as you can in 30 seconds, but don't disturb the jellyfish. So let me show you guys how this is gonna work. I'm gonna press the start button, and here it has the countdown, and here it comes. I have to click all of the ones that are plastic bags and not the ones that are jellyfishes. Alright, and I have to remove as many of them as I can in 30 seconds. And then if I hit a jellyfish, then it's gonna blink and it's tell you, okay, you disturb that jellyfish, right? But you have to be careful not to be clicking on the jellyfishes. And then after the 30 seconds is very fast, then it's gonna tell you how you did. Right? In this case, you identified 11 out of 20 plastic bags, but you also hit 6 jellyfishes. All right? So everybody understands, everybody saw what you have to do there? Okay, very good. So I'm gonna stop sharing. You guys can go ahead and open the link, and you guys can go ahead and try that and see how you did. And don't tell me your answer. If you guys did better than 11, don't make me feel bad about it. Alright, so I'm gonna give you guys 1 minute to do that because the game is only 30 seconds. Okay, are you finished? Did you play the game? So, if you want to try it later on again, like I said, the link is in the PowerPoint. You guys can go ahead and you can open that game and then you can play it again. Alright, let me have you guys turn on your cameras again because you think you're smart, and then I'm talking and Miss Mai is teaching and she's not gonna realize when I turn off my camera because she's busy talking and she likes the topic, and I still realize you guys are turning off your cameras. So let's continue with what we have here. So we have done this game. Now, coral reef destruction is defined as the mass death of the ocean's corals. Now, as a consequence, if we have the destruction of the coral reef, we automatically, and that is an automatic consequence, that whatever marine life is living in the coral reef will also have to perish. It is normally caused by illegal fishing techniques. There are people that go fishing, and because they know that fishes inhabit the coral reefs, they damage the coral reef along the process. It is caused by pollution. That is the biggest problem. It is caused by careless tourism. We are in Belize. One of our main ways for us to be getting revenue into the country was through tourism, and our coast, our marine, was one of the biggest attractions that we have. And if we have tourists that come, they also can damage, breaking off the coral, taking illegal marine lives as pets and so forth. And of course, climate change. And what causes climate change? Well, pollution causes climate change, right? So pollution is at the root of a lot of other different consequences that may take place. So now what we want to look at now is our redemption and our restoration. So God has a plan to bring creation to its original design, and a lot of people nowadays want that as well. We want things, and we want to restore things back to the way they were. If our coral reefs are dying, people are now finding ways how to rejuvenate these corals, bring them back to life. And that's the scientist perspective, and that's the scientist part. We have campaigns for cleaning up the environment. We have, yes, I will explain the work. At what time does our class finish? Or my time up? Anybody knows the time? 11:30. It's 10:35, you guys. Okay, let me go to the activity. Quickly go to the activity right here. You guys, this is what you're gonna do. Everybody has their own Google slide, and you guys can zoom it in if you would like. Zoom too much. 250 is a good size. All right, I have the instructions. Complete the graphic organizer below with information about the Belize Barrier Reef and Belize Resource Management. The first slide talks about the barrier reef in general. And it asks you guys to insert location, and we're talking about the barrier for Belize. So your location here is Belize. What you guys are going to be doing is that you're going to insert a text box, and you guys are going to type your answer there, right? So that is how you guys will be doing this. The climate, I already gave you guys the climate, and that includes the temperature. The threats to the environment, I gave you guys a list of threats right now. Pollution, careless tourism, careless fishing, all of those things fall under threats. My inquiry questions is one question that you have about the barrier reef. For example, how does climate change affect the reef? That is just an example. I want one question. The weather, we are in the tropics and the subtropics, so that is what you will insert here. Fauna and flora, I want one example or two examples of each. So we talked about the fauna. We said we have sharks, stingrays, fishes. You guys can insert that here. And flora is about algae. Those are examples of flora, and you insert that there. One item for each box is gonna be enough for me to be checking your answers. If you have more than one response that you would like to insert, go ahead, you're free to do that. I have no problem with you doing that. How is tourism managed in the Great Barrier Reef? Government management strategies. I gave you guys a list of these. The parks and the reserves. Choose one and insert one here. Government strategies. I have zoning. I would like you guys to define what zoning is. So you guys go in a dictionary, go online, find the definition of zoning and put zoning, the definition here. Local management strategies, the same thing. I want you guys to define what is ecotourism. And then the last two, local and government strategies. What are ways, one way, how the government of Belize or any organization in Belize collects data from the coral reefs? And then this last one, local management strategy. How does Belize educate visitors, especially for tourism? One way how they educate our visitors when it comes to the barrier reef. Everybody understands the assignment. Yes? Very good. Some of you have already submitted the assignment. If you would like to edit, you can always take back the assignment and resubmit later, right? So then that is the assignment for this week. If you guys would like to continue the PowerPoint, I did have some images there and I had one more activity at the end. We don't have enough time for us to do that. All right, so let me see. Anything in the chat? Nothing in the chat.